I'll just clean these components quickly. That's all dust and skin oils and so forth gone down the side there, gets trapped in the crevices. Excuse me. That's fine. A bit more cautious about this because I don't know how this will react. The outside edge looks quite good. That's okay. That's my flash wire there. This wire came up through that larger hole. Of course, this plastic piece has to go on. Okay. Get rid of that paper. I don't want anything obstructing me at this stage. Get those wires out. That pin needs to go through that guide spot there. Something like that. Once I've got these 3 screws in place, it means that everything is stable again. I'm not in danger of having the meter coupling come adrift. I've still got all the fun of soldering 3 wires in places while I try to juggle the shutter back on. But worse things happen at sea. It's a little bit stiff in its action. Is it rubbing on that wire? Let's have a quick look. No. No, that's fine. Okay. Little part's done. The camera back. Well, I suppose I could get the leatherette off that and deal with it while I'm here. You'll notice there's nothing embossed on the camera back. The later Retinettes didn't have any embossing on there. Oh yes, there's going to be it's hard when you're working on an edge like this. Anywhere the leatherette's folded over an edge, particularly when it's old, is difficult because you've got to bend the leather up quite a bit at that point to get under it, and if it's brittle it'll want to crack. Once you're up past the edge it's nowhere near as difficult. Some of this has stuck quite well, I think, and some of it obviously was flapping loose. The leatherette's a bit dry and stiff. And here where I'm using the scalpel, I'm using it to pry the leatherette up more than to scrape underneath it. So I'm sort of just prying it up, and the bond between the metal and the leatherette will break because the adhesive is let go of one side or the other. Typically it's the metal side that it's given way with, because the corrosion has got between the adhesive and the metal. Sometimes it'll be the leatherette. It's given up at the leatherette side. That would particularly be the case where the leatherette has been become very greasy, either with handling or because somebody has treated the leatherette with some magic product like Armour All that's supposed to restore your vinyl and all that sort of stuff. Anything that's greasy, that might break the bond between the adhesive and the leatherette. Here I think the problem is the corrosion. You can see the corrosion products here. We've got some thick white corrosion products here, and we've got this stuff, this sort of yellowy looking rubbish. That's quite greasy. There's a real mixture here. Of course, when the cameras were comparatively current, when I was just a young bloke working for Kodak in Wellington, you never had to do any of this because there was no corrosion under the leatherettes, because the cameras hadn't lived long enough to develop it. And if there had been, they would have been obviously swimmers, and you weren't going to fix them anyway. So I'm up to the other edge now, so I'm facing the same problem with the leatherette being stiff right at the edge, and it being difficult to get it separated at that point. Here it is, it's off. We'll start with the leatherette first and I'll clean that. You can see that the patches of corrosion on the back of the leatherette here are quite localised. And I suppose those are aluminium salts that have formed there. Some of this coming off is just dried glue. Some of the stuff you sort of have to chip away at. It's only with experience you get quicker at it and you're better able to judge how to tackle it. But the dried adhesive and the corrosion products and the aluminium are usually quite brittle and will break away fairly well as you scrape at them. You just have to be a bit cautious. And any damage on the leatherette, you've got to be very aware of it, because you can easily tear the leatherette if it's cracked. Right, that's a mess. Right, I'll wipe that down with some naphtha. And as before, it's to lift off any loose dust, remove any oils on the surface so that the adhesive will bond well with the leatherette. You're not usually asking the adhesive to do a hell of a lot when you're gluing back leatherettes. It's not a weight-bearing duty you're asking to do it. It's pretty light. All it's got to do is maintain a bit of surface tension on between the two surfaces. Now the back here, I'm just looking to get the loose stuff off here. It's got a bit of, that glue's got a better bond on most of that aluminium than the leatherettes had on the front of the camera, because of course it was it's pressed sheet metal, the back. It's not a die casting. So I just want all the loose stuff off, and any serious bumps. The yellowy colour there is, let's see if that'll come away. Yeah, that yellow stuff is just melting away with the naphtha. Right, well, I'll get this clean. Well, the back's all cleaned, the leatherette's glued back on, that all looks quite useful. Turning my attention to the base of the camera at the moment, and I noticed that the film advance lever here is cracked. Now there's a lot of rust here, which tells me that the camera was probably put down somewhere wet, and that's probably part of the reason that the leatherettes were coming loose. Not sure these screws are going to come out very nicely. They're certainly not in a good state. I think I need a bigger screwdriver for that one. It's coming out. One last screw. Let's see if we can get, the slot of the screw is just entirely clogged up with rust and I don't know what. That's coming loose. That's our film advance lever off the base. I'll strip the base off the camera just because I want to check that film advance mechanism and make sure that all the screws are tight. The leatherette is going to play nicely. The leatherettes often are stuck more firmly to the aluminium body than they are to the chromed brass trim around the outside of the base plate. Now here I'm mostly levering up the leatherette, but where it's really reluctant to lift, I'm scraping down underneath it, trying to get into the glue layer underneath the leatherette, between the leatherette and the metal. Right, that's off. Well, this is mostly just failed adhesive here and lumpy bumpy stuff. I'll take this chrome trim plate off just so I can see the state of the film advance. That was a screw trying to get away. So the film advance lever, that's cracked. That's not uncommon. Sometimes they can be glued back together successfully. There's a lot of dust and filth in here that'll have to be cleaned out. Now the three screws that hold this bush for the film advance to the casting, I'm just checking to see if they're tight. Yeah, they were good. That's good. There's a bit of sand and stuff here. I've got a replacement film advance lever. Just removing the crusty lumps around these screw heads. Some of that is adhesive, Some of it is just plain old rust. It may mean that actually somebody had glued or attempted to glue the leatherette that was on there back in place with shellac, because that's brown. It doesn't look dissimilar to that. Pop these screws in and see how that mechanism goes. Because of the meter on the top of this camera, I'm enthusiastic not to completely disassemble the film advance if I need, unless I have to, because I could easily end up damaging something in the meter. At this end really we've only got the selenium cell, but the wire runs down the length of the top. And the viewfinder is a bit of interesting in its own way. Yes, reluctant to come back to the park position. It's not that. It's just a bit gummy, so I am going to have to take that film advance mechanism to bits. That's a shame. Okay, these things happen. Let's have the film advance lever off then. The tripod socket, the screws loose. Yeah, they were pretty good. The base of the camera, can I scrape that crap off? Let's have a look at this leatherette. Clean the rubbish off that while I'm here. Now that was stuck quite well, but there's certainly more than its fair share of corrosion products and crusty adhesive on that. Whenever you see corrosion on the base of a camera like that, it's a sure sign that it's been put down somewhere wet, like the edge of the swimming pool, something like that. Right, I'm going to clean my work surface again. I need to open up the top of the camera next, and need everything clean when I'm doing that.